What's up? Hey, what's good? What's poppin'? I am Miss Berry. Welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you guys for sliding through and coming to kick it with me. As you guys can see from the title, this is going to be something new for me. A first time reaction. Very revealing. Margaret Sanger. I don't know why I was going to say something else. Sanger. But Sanger interview. Must see Planned Parenthood. I don't really know too much about her. So I'm pretty excited to, expand my mind and see what's going on here. So it's 30 minutes. I'm thinking about just kind of like breaking it down into a part 1 and part 2, so like 15. So anyway, y'all, I'm done talking. Let's go ahead and get straight up into it. All right, y'all. So, play.
Good evening. What you're about to witness is an unrehearsed, uncensored interview on the issue of birth control. It will be a free discussion of an adult topic, a topic that we feel merits public examination. My name is Mike Wallace. The cigarette is Philip Morris.
What in the actual? What did I miss? What was going on then?
New Philip Morris, probably the best natural smoke you ever tasted, presents
Advertisement. Or no advertisement? No advertisement.
the Mike Wallace Interview.
Okay.
Tonight, we go after the story of the woman who violated convention and bucked powerful opposition to lead the birth control movement in America. You see her behind me. She's Mrs. Margaret Sanger, who was thrown into jail 8 different times for her efforts. If you're curious to know why Mrs. Sanger has devoted her life to the birth control movement, if you'd like to hear her answer to the charge that birth control is a sin, and if you want to get her views on politics, divorce, and God, we'll go after those stories in just a moment. My guest's opinions are not necessarily mine. The stations are my sponsors, Philip Morris Incorporated, but whether you agree or disagree, we feel that none should deny the right of these views to be broadcast. One might say that the basis of this program is fact and fiction. And using that yardstick, I'd like to apply it to something I usually talk about at this time, and that is this: Philip Morris cigarettes. Here's why I smoke them and enjoy them. Fact 1. Today's Philip Morris is no ordinary blend. It's a special blend of domestic and imported tobaccos. Opinion? My taste may be different from yours, but on this I think we can agree. This cigarette tastes natural. I think you'll like it. Fact 2.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out, is it just me? Or did you guys see him put the cigarette to his mouth and like smoke it once? Because every single time he'd been talking about it, he just, he had it in his hand. So I'm just, he talked about it like, this is the best cigarette, like, or are they not allowed to smoke it on TV? They could just talk about it. I'm just really trying to figure out what's going on. What's going on here? Because I do notice that you have not smoked, or you didn't puff that, sir. Like I noticed that. So, or is it just me? Y'all just let me know, okay? I'm sorry.
Today's Philip Morris is made of mild, lighter leaf tobaccos. Opinion. To me, that accounts for the genuine mildness I get in every puff. It's what I call a man's kind of mildness. There's no filter, no fooling, no artificial mildness, because, you see, there's nothing between you and the tobacco itself. And fact 3 is, of course, this box. Philip Morris was the first non-filter cigarette to come in a crush-proof box. Opinion? A cigarette that keeps better, smokes better. So get with Philip Morris yourself and check these facts. And when you do, I think you'll find it's probably the best natural
it
smoke
and just putting it back
you
in
ever
his finger.
And now to our story. When Mrs. Margaret Sanger opened the first birth control clinic in the United States back in 1916, birth control was a dirty word.
Is she really sitting there, or is this a video? I'm sorry, y'all. Like, I am taking it serious. I just have questions. about this. You know what I'm saying? Like that I'm noticing that I'm curious about. So please don't beat me down.
The police threw her into jail as they were to do 7 more times during her crusade, a crusade that still faces the reasoning but unalterable opposition of the Roman Catholic Church. That crusade kept Mrs. Sanger away from her children for long periods. It helped to break up her first marriage, and she suffered constant, harrowing social abuse. Mrs. Sanger, in view of all of that, let me ask you this first of all. Why did you do it? I realize that you had an intellectual conviction that birth control was a boon to mankind, but I'm sure that others have that conviction too. And so what I'd like to know is this. What events, what emotions in your life made Margaret Sanger a crusader for birth control?
Well, Mr. Wallace, it's hard to say that any one thing has made one do this or that. I think from the very beginning, I came of a large family. My mother died young, 11 children. That made an impression on me as a child. I was a trained nurse.
Oh my
went among
God,
the people.
This car.
I saw women who asked to have
It's
some
Friday.
means
People want to just...
whereby they wouldn't have to have another pregnancy too early after the last child, the last abortion, which many of them had. So there's a number of things that are one after the other that really made you feel that you had to do something.
There are some other possible reasons that suggest themselves on reading your biography by Lawrence later. Your mother, as you say, died prematurely after bearing 11 children. She was born a Catholic, was she not?
She was born a Catholic, yes.
And
in Ireland.
Your father was a sort of a village atheist who clashed with church authorities, and because of his atheism, his earnings dwindled under community pressure. You and your brothers and sisters were known as, quote, children of the devil, end quote. Could it be then that in part at least you were driven emotionally toward the birth control movement because of antagonism toward the church, because that was a way to fight the church?
No, I don't think I had anything of the kind in mind. I was what I would call a born humanitarian. I don't like to see people suffer. I don't like to see cruelty, even to this day. And in nursing, you see a great deal of cruelty and unnecessary suffering. At that time, there was no opposition as far as the church was concerned, any church. It was mainly the law, the federal law and state laws that one had to think of. The church was not in my mind at all.
Well, in going after your motive then, and I will press you just a little bit more about that and then get to the specifics of this evening, but in your motive, in the movement, is it possible that the movement itself, the feeling of wanting to do anything that you felt was important, that perhaps that moved you a good deal? Because the fact remains that you led a movement against overwhelming pressures that stemmed back for centuries, and in doing so, according to your autobiography, you even left your first husband. And you wrote this to a friend, Mrs. Sanger. You said, "Where is the man to give me what the movement gives in joy and interest and freedom?" Now, what was this joy, this freedom that you craved?
Well, I don't remember that letter, who it was written, but I think that it was not a question of marriage at all. There was a certain satisfaction in doing something that was going to alleviate the sufferings of women in particular, and I was quite a feminist at the time.
Obviously.
And yes, and I naturally didn't want to see women take all the suffering of childbearing and of pregnancies. So it was a pleasure, in a sense, to think that you were striking at an archaic law, which it was. It was put on the statute books by Anthony Comstock some years ago, and no one had stood up against it. No one had tried to change the laws. And at that time, not even a doctor had a right to use the United States mails and common carriers for books, for learning, for anything that he had to do with this question. It was considered obscene. The whole question was considered obscene.
Mrs. Sanger, you have helped to spread the birth control movement not only here in the United States, but in Europe and the Orient as well. Why? Why is birth control of such vital importance internationally? Is it just to save women suffering? Is that the only reason in your mind?
Well, not entirely. The population question is a great concern today, and the rate at which the births come in to we're saving them now. At one time, when children died, they didn't have the food. Today, our population all over the world is getting certainly better consideration and better conditions than they had at the time that I was there. I went to every country because I was invited.
I don't know why I'm rocking y'all.
I
do
didn't
that a lot
spread
when I
go
watch
into the country myself. I was invited to go to Japan and to speak there, have 8 lectures on the question of birth control and peace.
Well, do you believe that birth control is essential if we want to keep millions of people across the world from starving? Is that your thesis?
Say it again.
Do you feel that birth control is essential to keep millions of people across the world from starving?
Well, I think the birth control, if you keep your population more or less static until you pick up your resources, certainly you'll keep them.
I understand what she's saying when she said, I like the way she said that because that's different than, how you would normally hear it, but it's pretty much like she was saying, like, taking birth control to prevent, pregnancy, even though you should always wrap it up, the hope that you're legal. I said legal. Yeah, pretty much illegal. You know what I'm saying? Like anyway, y'all get what I'm saying. Like, I don't condone any of the extra BS. My voice just seemed like it's going in and out. But anyway, so I pretty much get what she's saying. Like, when you, get stable, financially in your life, or just, period, like have stability, then you could have kids. Like, I get what she's saying.
They're starving.
Well, what's more important, birth control or picking up the resources?
Well, picking up the resources, there's just a limit to that, too. There's just so much. Take Japan. And she cannot feed. They've had the best experts come there when MacArthur was there. And the best experts have said they have 20 million more people than they can feed. She's got to be fed outside in some way. She's got to have that kind of help if she's going to keep from fighting.
But certainly around the world there is potential agricultural land that is not being properly used now. Just this past year, on May 21st, the New York Times summarized an important study of the world's food resources made by Professor James Bonner of the California Institute of Technology. Professor Bonner says the world is not using 1 billion acres of potential agricultural land, and he adds that if this land were used and present agricultural land were improved, the entire world could be fed adequately, even if the population increased by 1/3 in the next 50 years.
Oh, Mr. Wallace, you hear so many fantastic things of what can happen, what may happen. This and that, I've heard it for the last 30 years anyway, to what could be done, but it's never done. And the thing is, what is it now? What have we got today? A very distinguished woman spoke to me about Arizona. And she said, I wish you wouldn't talk about population. She said, all the population of the United States could be put in one state. And I said, what state? She said, Arizona. I said, did you ever hear of caliche? She didn't know that I was talking about a delicatessen or what. I said, well, caliche is harder than any rock. And it is about 3 inches below the ground, where it looks beautiful. It looks as if you could have food. It looks as if you could have corn or wheat or cotton. But as a matter of fact, you have to dynamite caliche out of the ground in order to have a little shrub, have a little grass or a few flowers. So there's many problems that
it's
when it comes
so
to that. And the
interesting.
demographers, I never heard of anyone that would agree with that we could have another in the world,
Another third. Well, you say that originally the opposition was in all law, and you have to fight against that. Today, your opposition stems mainly from where? From what source?
Well, I think that the opposition is mainly from the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church.
Of the Church. Well, now
hierarchy.
Of the hierarchy of the Church. You feel that the parishioners themselves, the lay people in the Church, are not against birth control?
I feel they come to all of our clinics just the same as the non-Catholics do. Exactly the same.
Well, let's look at the official Catholic position. Opposition to birth control. I read now from a church publication called The Question Box. In forbidding birth control, it says the following. It says, the immediate purpose and primary end of marriage is the begetting of children. When the marital relation is so used as to render the fulfillment of its purposes impossible, that is by birth control, it is used unethically and unnaturally. Now, what's wrong with that position?
Well, it's very wrong. It's not normal. It's not, it has the wrong attitude toward marriage, toward love, toward the relationships between men and women.
Well, the natural law, they say, is that, first of all, the primary function of sex in marriage is to beget children.
Well,
do you disagree with that?
I disagree with it 100%.
Your feeling is what, then?
My feeling is that love and the attraction between men and women, in many cases, the very finest relationship, has nothing to do with bearing a child. It's secondary. Many, many times we know that. You see, your birth rate, you talk to people who have very happy marriages and they're not having babies every year. Yes, I think that's a celibate attitude. Surely.
Well, a celibate attitude, but you agree that Catholicism, according to the tenets of Catholicism, they rule that birth control violates not only the Church's position, it isn't the Church's position, but they say that it violates a natural law, as I have just explained. Therefore, birth control is a sin, no matter who practices it. Now, the violation of the natural law...
So basically, excuse me, y'all, I'm so sorry. So basically, it's like you're implying that, you know, because, you know, birth control could prevent pregnancy, that, like, if you're meant to have a baby, you know, or, you know, it just messes with the natural law, the natural balance of the way life is supposed to work, the way we're supposed to be fruitful and multiply, that it's a sin. See, that's like a whole deeper topic for a whole nother day. Like, that's something I would definitely like to dig in and, you know, talk about. Oh my God. It's Friday and everybody want to be out with their fast cars. I'm sorry, y'all. My desk is directly next to the window, but besides the point. But anyway, that's deep. You know, like implying that birth control is a sin. But I do agree, like, it saves many lives. Then it's another part of me that's like, well, if you're safe about it, but then even, you know, you can be safe about it and sometimes things happen and, you know, boom. So it's just, nothing is like really impossible at this point. Like, you just never know. So
You certainly can take no issue with the natural law as the hierarchy of the Catholic Church regards it.
Well, I certainly do take issue with it. I think it's untrue, and I think it's unnatural.
Well, let me ask you...
Everything bears it out that it's an unnatural attitude to take. And how do they know? I mean, after all, they're celibates. They don't know love. They don't know marriage. They know nothing about bringing up children or any of the marriage problems of life. And yet they speak to people as if they were God.
Let me ask you this question. Suppose a healthy, a well-to-do couple decide for some reason never to have children, use birth control all their lives. Would you say that your methods are being misused, Mrs. Sanger?
Now, if they were intelligent people and they had some reason for thinking of children as a responsibility, or some disease that they might have that they wouldn't like to pass on to a child, and I think it would be a very unselfish attitude for them to take if there is a disease.
No, I say a healthy, well-to-do couple. A couple that just doesn't want children, and for that reason they use birth control all the way. Well, do you think that that is a misuse of your methods?
I'm sorry, y'all, but for some reason, just the way he was just talking to her, it made me want to just be like, who is you talking to like that? Like, respect, you know? But that's just my opinion, y'all. Don't mind me.
It's a misuse. I think if they're intelligent adults, but they must know what they want. They must manage their lives themselves. And certainly there's nothing birth control than there is in other things that you might deny yourself.
I've asked you your motives a little while ago at the beginning of the program, your motives in working for birth control as hard as you have for as many years as you have. You reject the principal Catholic argument against birth control as being totally invalid. What do you think is the reason, the motive of the Church in forbidding birth control?
You'd have to ask a Catholic that. I couldn't say what their motive is.
Well, you couldn't say officially what their motive is, but you certainly must have an opinion about it, Mrs. Sanger.
Well, I don't have much to do with the hierarchy. And I know that the people that come to our organization and want to have the same methods, or whatever it is that one can have to prevent a pregnancy, that those women will say to us, we ask their religion very often, and they say, I am a Catholic, I was raised in the Catholic Church, and my church is wrong on this. This is the one thing. I will never be anything else, but my church is wrong on this one thing. And that is said over and over and over again.
All right, y'all. So we're going to end that video right there like that. Because, yeah, we're going to cut it in half. So we're going to definitely do the other parts. Y'all, I'm all over the place trying to figure out what to write and what to talk. So I'm just writing the time down. Don't mind me. So I'll know where we stopped at and where I need to pick up at. So anyway, y'all, this was a very interesting video. You know, like, this is my first time actually watching any interview with Margaret. So it's pretty interesting to hear her thoughts. It's pretty interesting to, you know, like, the questions that he was asking was pretty interesting as well. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was asking her certain questions, you know, it was getting to the nitty gritty. But I definitely can't wait to finish the interview and see exactly, you know, how it went, how it ended, more information, and possibly, you know, go off and venture and find more videos of Margaret so I can actually see and hear. You know, I'm just want to expand my mind here and learn more about something that is used for my body. I'm sorry, I keep hitting the mic, it's like right here. But I don't take birth control. So I can't really say. But anyway, y'all, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this reaction video just as much as I enjoy reacting to it. I am so sorry, y'all. But just as much as I enjoy reacting to it, I can't wait to get into part 2. I hope that you guys stay tuned for that, y'all. Comment down below, give me more things that you guys would like to see me react to on this channel. It don't necessarily have to be anything pertaining to this video here. It can be, you know, just anything. You know, I like to pay attention to the comments and respond to you guys. Also, don't forget to thumb this video up, y'all. Like it up. And as well, I appreciate you guys for coming in through and coming to, you know, vibe with me and just kick it with me. And on the way out, guys, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and ring that bell, so when I drop a new video, you will know, you won't miss it. You will be right here. Y'all, I feel like that was a lot. That was just a lot. But anyway, y'all, until next time.